All right. Well, hey, welcome to another podcast. I make it sound like I do these every day. I watch podcasters and they do podcasts every day, even when they're traveling, they're in hotels and stuff. But here I am back in my office and I'm doing this like every month. So I can make it sound like I'm a busy person, but I don't do these that often. Anyway, what I wanted to do is a different one this time. So in the 23 years I've been doing events, 23 years I've been doing ClickBid at events, I really haven't ever, to my shame, been a committee member from start to finish on an actual event. And so, as I've grown in the company and been able to kind of let go of some of the day-to-day tasks, I've had a little more time to go out and actually experience that and, have weekly meetings and, committee this and finding auction items that and sponsorships and all that stuff. And so what I wanted to do was just put a podcast together and actually talk about my experience. Now, I'm mostly doing this for the team at ClickBid, but, if this gets shared, that's fine too. I can't expect everybody on my team to go out and be an actual committee member. It's quite a commitment. And, we're busy enough, especially during the busy season, that it's hard to do. So I put a lot of notes together. I really want to stay on track. So you'll see me look at my script from time to time to make sure that, I stay on track and I, show off a couple things and talk through it. But this is more of an experience, kind of a summary of how things went. And it's a podcast when I got my meat sticks. So, in the 23 years I've been doing events, I spend my time focused on the technology. And so does all our staff, building software, supporting software, explaining it to people to make a purchase, and so on. We don't really help or see that what the nonprofit is going through everywhere else. As you think about an event, I need a venue, I need a catering company, I need a band, I need games, I need sponsorships, I need floral, I need valet, I need to make sure that this is the right weekend. Not all of a sudden I find out that this is a major holiday weekend in the city and I'm not going to have anybody showing up. There's just a lot of things going on. A lot of times when we field calls, we in support, we're seeing somebody at their most stressed and most hurried time. Sometimes they're, the tone isn't the best, but, we see it. And going through this experience teaches me why. It's like, this is, it's not about what it's about. It's something else, and we're just the receiving end of it. But because there were a couple times where in this experience where I've felt like, oh my gosh, I have like 5 minutes. I need to figure this out, and I don't have time for anything else. Because I actually have a job and a family and other things that I needed to get done. So, it's hard to put it all together. But, here from all of that, all those moving pieces, here's a few things that I experienced. So first, we have to start all the way at the beginning, which is selling tickets. We need to get people to show up. We need butts and seats, as they say. And so the event that I guess I should, clarify, the event that I did was for my son's school. It's a small private school for kids on the spectrum, ADHD, dyslexia, dysgraphia, high functioning, but still not a great fit for the public school system. And so very small school. We have about 50 kids, K through 12, and it's a very close-knit group. So how much are we going to charge for tickets? Now, keep in mind, the people that we're inviting are people that already pay a tuition for the school, so let's not go crazy. So how much can people afford? How much are they willing to pay? Then it's, all right, well, that's a small group. 50 parents, basically, and how do we get beyond that? We need to get word out to all of our donors. How are we going to pull that off? How do we solicit sponsors? This was actually really hard. I'm not really good at walking into businesses and asking for money. I'll talk a big talk like I can do it, and I can, but I'm also I'll always let something else get in the way of that. But, the thing that we really needed and we got was using a service like Canva, or AI even can do some of this stuff. It's gotten so much better. I needed something to help out when I walked in, instead of, stammering around for words like, well, can we have money, have a sponsorship. What I needed was a one sheet piece of paper that talked about what the event is, let's see what they get, what's the benefits, when is it, how much are we asking for, here's a QR code you can scan to learn all about it. Because again, one of the good things about, owning a software company that has event software is that I could actually set up a landing page in ClickBid so that I could answer all of those questions, but as a one sheet could point them to it through the QR code, but then some of the basics, and then put a pin in a map. Where am I going from Tobin's, my son's school, like a 5 mile radius, or just a 1 mile radius. Hit all of those businesses, because it's really easy to walk into them and say, hey, I'm out talking to businesses within a 1 mile radius of my son's school. Well, that, people like to support things that are nearby and close and relevant to them, and that is a hook. So having that one sheet also cuts down on that. So that was a big help. Now, did I do enough of it? No. I should have. That's one thing, when looking back, I would have put more time into that, because it's not just about this event, it's about next year. And hey, by the way, we're also doing another campaign, getting donors that don't necessarily go to our school, but they can be supportive of it for other reasons. Now, in our case, our kids were, walking mailboxes. That's what I like to call them, because this happens all the time. If you've got a, kid in school, they'll come home with their backpack and they'll have stuff to hand you. But in our school, most of the walking mailboxes will somehow manage to destroy the mail before it gets to you. But that's what I said. I said, walking mailboxes destroy the mail before we see it. And it's true. Now, but it's not 100%. Like, let's say I make a flyer, that same flyer, but geared to parents, not to donors. Because again, these are two different things. You gotta, something that I would highly recommend is having somebody in the organization who has Canva. That's what we used. And then you start a project in Canva, and then you just put stuff in there and you can reuse it to try to keep it simple. Because again, like our event, we just didn't have a lot of time. Man, I got 10 minutes to make a flyer, and it can be cool or it can be just done and effective. But keeping it organized so that tomorrow when I need, what I really need is I need a flyer to send home in the backpacks of kids so that it can get to the parents with basically the same data, just not asking for a $2,000 sponsorship. I'm asking for them to buy tickets. So I go into Canva, I open that file, I make a copy of it, and then I make some text changes. And because it's in that project, I can just keep going back to it over and over again. And it's a repository of stuff. I think that's really helpful. And one of the folks on our team, her name's Bree, she was amazing. I mean, I'm assuming she did that because she was always very on it, but obviously, let's say 50%, so 25 parents got a copy of this flyer. I remember my son said, Dad, I'm supposed to give this to you, and he handed it to me. And I was like, and I saw what it was. I'm like, well, at least I'm one of the 50% that got it. A lot of kids, it's probably like crumpled up in the bottom of their bag. So still very important, but we can't look at it as a one-off thing. So we had to actually go out and do more of them. And we thought, all right, well, what we ended up doing, actually, before I get there, I'm looking at my notes and I'm like, I think I'm a little bit ahead of myself. It's actually two down. More importantly, what we found was in previous years using ClickBid, and this was the first year I was fully involved in it, but I was always involved at some level in the past. Historically, we would get a lot of registrations at the last minute. And to me, I'm like, man, that's really nerve-wracking. Like, I remember talking to one of the organizers last year, and she said, yeah, I'm assuming we're going to fill up because we don't have maybe but 50 people signed up, and this is like 2 weeks before the event. So to me, what that said this year was, okay, we're going to do as much as we possibly can to fill that void of time. Like when you first launch it, you send out an email and a newsletter, you make a big splash about it, and that's usually like a month or two before the event. You'll get some signups because you got those early adopters and they're like, yeah, I'll do it, I'll sign, I'll get my ticket, block it off in the calendar, blah, blah, blah. Then you go like a month and it's crickets. But it's usually, I think it's crickets because are you doing enough to promote it? Internally, we feel like we're beating people over the head. And actually, it's funny because I didn't put this in my notes, but one of the actual principal of the school said, I had a conversation with her and she said, Matt, I feel like I've said this a million times. And I'm like, you know what? I just saw it. And it kind of reinforced the idea that internally you feel like you've said something 100 times, but it's barely made an impact. But what happens is you start to scale back internally because you're like, I don't want to beat people over the head with this. And I will, it is definitely a balance, but you can't gauge your level of involvement by how you feel as somebody working in the organization. You have to gauge your involvement on somebody on the outside by asking them, hey, are you sick of hearing about this? And if they say, I don't even know what you're talking about, well, then you know you got some work to do. But if they say, oh no, I'm fine, then you know you're in the sweet spot, the zone. And you can keep going at that pace, and you're probably not going to burn out a lot of people. It's okay if one or two people come to you and say, dude, I get it. But to keep in mind, I don't think you should measure your efficacy of something by how sick of it you are internally, because that's not a good measurement. Anyway, another thing that we did, because like I said earlier, we had this thing go home with the kids, but only 50% of the parents saw it. So we just took it the next step. We said, okay, we need to add another layer. We need to keep going. So we said, all right, we're going to dial for dollars. Every one of us on the committee, we split up the parent directory into, I think, 4 quarters, and we each had to call parents. So, something that has nothing to do with technology. So that I'm like, okay, well, I guess I can do it. I mean, I can do anything. I'm on the committee and I'll just do whatever needs to be done. But I called people up, I'm talking to them. It was cool. Like, obviously these are parents that know what we're doing. They're like, yeah, of course you're raising money for the school. We need carpet, we need a playground, we need more tech, yeah, we get it. So it was fun also as a parent calling other parents, so I had an automatic reason to call you. Otherwise, it feels like I'm doing one of those like, I'd like to talk to you about your, car's warranty kind of thing. And that's obviously unpleasant. So I was able to get on the phone, and it felt like I had to be really quick. Like as soon as they picked up the phone, they're like, hello? Because they don't recognize the number. I'm like, hey, I'm Matt Burnell. And before they hang up, I feel like I gotta say, I'm Matt Burnell, a parent at Lake Michigan Academy. Oh, okay. Whew, got that out of the way. At least the parent now listens to me. I had some really good conversations. I didn't realize that there were some kids that lived as close as they did to us. We lived quite a ways away from the school, but I was like, wow, that's, I learned a lot. So it was actually pretty cool for parents to call parents. So I would recommend that as well. If you're doing, you need to multi-layer your outreach, and don't worry that you're going to overdo it, because you definitely don't measure that overdoing it internally. It's okay to hit people more than once. And when you're reaching out to people with cold calling or, dialing for dollars, some people call it, use people that are familiar with other people in the organization, so it doesn't feel like just a cold outreach. That was big. Plus, we were able to push the idea of, hey, don't just show up yourself with your son or daughter. Bring your parents. So the kids' grandparents, or hey, bring your friends, tell them it's going to be a good time, there's good music, blah, blah, blah. And that was something we had to really push, is we have a really good band that plays at this event every year. Just awesome. And I mean, when they were warming up, I was like, this is going to be good. Well, we all, again, internally, we take it for granted that, yeah, of course people know that it's going to be a good band, but what if they don't? So we need to go out and tell people, hey, just so you know, this is going to be a really good event if you have nothing to do with the school, because there's a lot of good music. It's at a nightclub. It's downtown, in a really cool hip part of town. I mean, it's fun. Like, it's a good place to just go hang out. So, we want to expand the donor base, and we want to get outside of the parents, because again, the parents are already tapped out. We're paying tuition. Maybe we donated to something else. Now you're asking us to do it again and again and again. But okay, well, what if you bring your parents with you? Because your parents want to support their grandkids. So that was something we really pushed. Now, back to that thought that I started earlier, is we also printed a 4x4 foot canvas with that idea, with that concept of invite your friends, invite your family to this event. So we did the, who, what, when, where, like, the what, it's the Music That Matters Gala, a big QR code that you could scan from the parking lot and, what time and what we wanted. Please invite your friends, donate items, and come to the event. And we put it up on this kind of, temporary platform, and it was right there for drop off and pickup. So it gets viewed, it's automatic viewing 2 times a day, and you could just sit in your car and take a scan of it. If you're a school, that's a biggie. Like, some schools are probably like, well, duh. But again, this goes back to, well, okay, are we beating people over the head? No, you're not. Because again, if only 50% of your parents saw the thing that we sent home in the mailbox, the portable mailboxes, and then we did the phone calling, and then they see this in the parking lot at pickup and drop off, they may have that's really only 3 impressions. Like, that's okay. We want more than that. And so it should be sent out as a reminder. The thing about newsletters, I noticed this too. We get newsletters every week from the school, and I will admit I probably don't read them as much as I should. Every time I don't read one, every piece of information that you put into that didn't get to me. That's a loss. I mean, it's a loss for me. It's a loss for the school. But I'm busy. I got things to do, and I just didn't have time, or I'm just used to it. So specialized communications are not wasted, and they're not oversaturation. I'm really spending a lot of time on this. I didn't expect to talk so much about not worrying about going overboard. In the last, 5 or 6 years of, speaking out on, how to run events, tutorials, all that stuff, I spend a lot of time on communication strategy because I feel very strongly that ClickBid is a great tool to get all the mechanics and all the things moving in the right direction, organize all your data, and run a smooth event. But that event is successful based on how well you reach out to people and let them know about it. And we did a press release, we did all those communication things, and the banner, that helped a lot. And what I found was there were literally times where I would see registrations come in shortly after drop off and shortly after pickup. And I can't say for sure, but it seems like people, like, oh yeah, they scanned it and they took it home. Or it was a good reminder to say, oh yeah, shoot, I haven't bought our tickets yet. What we saw was, instead of seeing this dip in registration sales, we saw more of a graduated, more jagged line where we saw registrations happening all through over spring break, before and after spring break, in that lull that we've had in the past. On the event day, we did get a lot of registrations on event day, those last minute folks who were like, oh, okay, I guess I better buy a ticket. But it cut down on people buying tickets when they showed up, which I personally don't like, because then we got to deal with that at check-in. I want check-in to run really smooth and just be very cyclical. But when somebody says, oh yeah, right, I need to buy a ticket, you're like, okay, so I need you to write a check, I need you to give me cash, or I need you to add it to your checkout as a credit card payment. We didn't have very many of those. Whereas in years past, more people would say, oh yeah, you know what, I didn't buy tickets. And what I found this year was that actually was drastically reduced. All right, I need to keep going here. What's going on? All right, I need my proteins. So we did, one of the great things was this year, in the past, I didn't push very hard on this, and I should have as the software owner of ClickBid. The organization, because they were pretty disconnected, they were setting up auction items in a Google Sheet. And that Google Sheet was like pretty chaotic, unorganized, but it was available to a lot of different people. And so, Kendra would go in, fill out these 2 things, and then be out. And she would just say, hey, I updated a couple things. I think one of them was this. Well, it's helpful because we know that they did that, but we don't really know exactly what they did. And then, Bob would go in, make more changes. And then once we got to the point where we wanted to open the auction, I had to go in, reorganize it into an import format that we use at ClickBid, and then drag and drop that file into ClickBid so that it would populate our auction catalog. Because you can't auction anything in ClickBid unless it's in ClickBid. If it's in a Google Sheet, that's, not helpful to ClickBid because it's not available. That created a lot of extra steps. It doesn't, at first it doesn't sound like much, it's easier for people to use a Google Sheet. Okay, but when, as the auction organizer that's using ClickBid or any mobile bidding platform, if I'm trying not to be too salesy, when do you import it into ClickBid? Well, what if you do it the day before? You open the auction. We want you to open the auction early. Like our event was on Thursday. I wanted to open the auction on Monday. So then Sunday afternoon, I'm rushing around trying to get this thing added. Well, then somebody says, oh, Matt, hey, listen, I made some updates in the Google Sheet and we added 3 more items. So they came in last minute and you're like, ah. So now I have to find out what 3 items they are because I don't want to re-import items I already imported. So as soon as you have to do an import more than once, that becomes a real hassle. So this year, because I was involved from the very beginning, I said, hey, and we made some big updates to the Manage Items page in ClickBid, and I'll show you Manage Items. It's easy. You just, add your items, you can edit, change, you can change the number, you can change the closing time, change the status, all just like a spreadsheet. More importantly, if I go to LMA 25 and I hit the landing page, now this is our old platform, mind you, but same story. Oh, you know what? I think I got rid of it. I turned it off. So if I go back and turn it on, I know it'll only take a second. Let's just put it in. Let's just get rid of it. I'll get rid of the live stream. Item donation form. Okay. So instead of the stream, I put the form. What it did was it allows me to send out the landing page and let people add their auction items this way. So now over half of our items were added by other people through this form. So Bree in our office, instead of people calling her up, sending her emails and all that stuff, and having to add it to a Google Sheet that Matt would have to import into ClickBid and then re-import and update, they just added it right here, and then it got added automatically to ClickBid, and we could look at it, make it active. So it gets added there, and then I go into item. I'm trying to be so fast. I could look at it and go, oh, cool, here's a new one. They always come in invisible, so if somebody fills out the form, it isn't instantly available, which is good because you just don't know what they put in. You may want to change things. But, a couple things. Is that really reinforced to the nonprofit, not me, because I already want to do this, but as to the nonprofit, it's like promote the landing page. Go to your home in the admin, in this page right here. This should be on every email. This should be on every flyer. This should be on every banner. This should be in sponsor packets. This right here is your virtual venue. You're going to have we had the nightclub for our physical venue, but the virtual one was online and it's available for months and you don't have to pay rent. You just use it. Everything somebody does, if they want to make a donation, buy a ticket, donate an auction item, figure out when the event is, look at pictures from last year, submit a story, any of those things happen at the virtual venue. And it's so much easier to promote instead of go to this Google form or, go to this Instagram feed or whatever. It's all right there. It's on the landing page. And so not only did it help us in communication, because nobody had to second guess, did I put the right link in that email? Yeah, you put the landing page and that's it. Just go to the home screen, copy, and put it into everything, and you'll never go wrong, because now I can look at all the content areas and I can put it down here, and now I can, add that auction item. Even when somebody submitted an item to me verbally, I could go in and add it in here, because it lets me add notes, pictures, exceptions, everything, market value. It's awesome, super handy. So that was a big win. It really cut down everything. We didn't have any Google Sheets. Everything was right here. Big deal. This was a huge time saver. And the thing is, it doesn't feel that way at the beginning because, I could just do a Google Sheet. It will make a big deal in the, in the after. So, the other thing is, obviously we had sponsors coming in, and I was able to add those, on the page. So, we were a sponsor, of course, we donated, Amwins, Gilmore Collection, and then we put in, I think, where is it? Yeah, we put in, specific names of family members and things like that, and we made these categories. This is really good. Plus, they're links, so I can go to, the ProTech website. And the nice thing is that, our pages are indexed on Google, so this is an SEO boost for the organization, for Vantage, Axios, Brigade Fire, us. Gilmore. You can add those links, and that actually is a sponsor ad to say, listen, you're going to get impressions from a very focused group of people. People who go to these events are typically affluent, people who love to be philanthropic. They're very community driven. Generally speaking. So as a small local business, that's a very focused market. You're going to have a hard time finding people that advertise to that focused of a market. So in addition to your yellow page ad, that's pretty funny. This should be part of your marketing as a small business. Putting your logo here with a link, because it's good for marketing and good for SEO. A little more caffeine. So that happened. So I just kept, and it's great because with ClickBid, I'm able to just keep the data updated. Somebody sends me an email from the staff, says, hey Matt, we added a new sponsor. Can you put them on the page? Yep, simple, pimple, just drop it in there. And they could have done it too, but since I was a volunteer, I felt like I could do that for them. And that was, again, really easy. It was fun to get back into ClickBid. I haven't done this much. I'm busy doing a million other things instead of running an event. So we did do 2 games this year. I'm looking at my notes. We did a punch cup and we did a giving tree. So the punch cup is like a punch board. You get a piece of wood. You can put some cups, cover them with tissue paper, and then this is a great tool to get gift cards and to give them away. There's some debate right now about how easy it is to get auction items for your event. Well, getting an auction, the reason people do silent auction, this is to me, one of the number one reasons why charities should do auctions, is because it serves, you knock down a bunch of things with one stone. Or, I don't know, with one domino. I don't know what the analogy is. But with an auction item, if I have an auction item in hand, a couple things are happening. One, I've got something for free that somebody's going to pay for at the event that they get to get in addition to give. So somebody's going to give me $50 for this $75 gift card, or they're going to give me $75 for the $75, whatever. So that's great. I made $75 as the charity. Awesome. And the person who gave it to me is probably in that middle class level because they don't have thousands of dollars to just pour into a cool live auction item, but they have $75 to give and be engaged in your charity with the $75. And so it's also an attractor of middle class people to come to your event and participate in the auction, in the event. When they're at the event, they're engaged. You're connecting with them. You're keeping them involved in your charity. You're teaching them what you're doing. There's just a lot of benefits when you have bodies in a room or bodies watching on a live stream. But the fact that you have this auction item means that you reached out to the local business that gave it to you, and now they know about you. So again, you can accomplish a lot of things. Hey, we're doing an auction this year. I was wondering if you had any gift cards or anything. We're doing a punch board where people, they punch through a piece of paper and they get a prize for a certain dollar amount. And we'd love to add one of your gift cards. Oh, really? Now, if that's all the conversation is, okay. But if you're building community in your, locally with your nonprofit, to say, hey, I really think it's important for me to tell you why this gift card is so important to us, because we're building scholarship funds to help more kids come to our school that don't quite fit into the public system, but would really fit into our school system. And it's expensive to run a school, and a lot of parents don't have all the funds they need to come here, so we want to provide scholarships. This gift card is going to make that happen. Oh, thank you. And can I get your email? I'd love to follow up with you and let you know how it went. So now you're engaging the gas station, the local brewery, the salon, the law firm. Incidentally, estate planning and will writing gift cards or certificates are really good auction items. I don't know why I said that. But you're also engaging a business to then come back and become a long-term donor, because you're going to want to go back to them next year. Like, hey, remember that gift card you gave me last year? That was huge. Well, it probably shouldn't be the next time you talk to them. I talked to them in April of this year, and then I'm not going to talk to them again until April of next year. So following up afterwards with an email or whatever to say, hey, this was that, this is how it went, and we would love to connect with you next year. Awesome. So I one of the things I did was, my business partner came into town, and I said, hey, you got to stay at this bed and breakfast. They have the world's greatest breakfast, and it's a really old kind of historic house. And so to shamelessly promote them, it's Logan on Leonard, and it is an awesome B&B, so historical. And again, the breakfast is like 5-star. So we were there. He was there for work, and we were doing some stuff at the house, spending a day off-site doing work. And I went to the owner of the B&B, and I just said, hey, man, we're doing a fundraiser for our kids' school. Do you guys ever give away any kind of like an overnight or anything? And he said, yeah, let us know. Well, here's a gift certificate for an overnight stay. And so I bought a couple of coffee mugs with the Logan on Leonard name on it, and then I made that an auction item. And the value was $250 for the night, but we sold it for $355. That was awesome. And it was a lot of fun for me to go back and email them and say, hey, just so you know, we had a great night, and we made $355 off this gift card. They're probably thinking, well, we should charge more. But they made a huge impact on our kids' school. And that was awesome. So it was a lot of fun for me to go back and do it. I think what motivated me to do more of it was the opportunity to go back and just prove to the people that made sponsors or made auction donations how beneficial that was. So one thing, in my notes. So one thing they did, I'm sure, some of this stuff is probably done a lot, but an Amazon wish list was really helpful. We had to look at when you gather data at an auction, like using ClickBid, you also get to see bidding trends, and if you knew that if the lower half of your auction items, by fair market value, had the most number of bids, then you know that your demographic is going to be really tuned into some of those lower cost items. Either each person wants to buy a lot of them and they like the idea of taking home 6 things, or that's where they're at and that's what they're willing to spend, because they're, like I said, in a school environment, sometimes parents are tapped out. So that helps you learn in future years, we need to get a lot more of these, $40 to $50 items, because while it's great to get these porcelain smokers and, 10-speed or 21-speed, custom mountain bikes, that is not a huge draw for people. So what we found, and that's what we found at our event, was when I looked at the bid traffic, it was on these kind of lower half items. So they made a wish list on Amazon for things like a massage gun, coloring kits, makeup kits, things like that. And they put it out for people to buy and then donate back to the school as auction items. So I didn't have to, because I hate shopping. I didn't have to go shopping other than just on a website and say, this, I'm going to buy it and I'm going to donate to the school. So I think you can even have it shipped to the school. So this is amazing. So this is how we're bridging that gap of, well, Matt, it's hard to find auction items because everything is online. Well, Amazon wish list. That's how we did it, and it was that really worked well, especially for people on my staff. When I said, "Hey, anybody want to donate an item?" I had a couple people buy things on the Amazon wish list, which was really cool. Another thing that kids did, which was great. One of the volunteers in the committee said, "Hey, my mom is big into painting workshops, and so what if we went to the school and had the high schoolers do painting portraits, not portraits, but artwork, using this technique where you splatter paint and then you move the canvas around to get the paint to do different things, and it's an abstract, and then the kids can sign it and we can auction it off in the event." Now this has like 100 benefits. First of all, you're engaging your student body. That's great. Second of all, you now have a teaching lesson to say, this is how we're going to use it to generate revenue for the school in the tuition assistance program. That's a good teaching experience. 3, it has unlimited value. Parents, especially, like class projects, I always recommend class projects. I've seen people get into fistfights over winning a class project in an auction because they have no, like the value is the canvas, like, right? So the fair market value is like $10. But what people will pay for it is unlimited, 100, 200, 300, 400 items for dollars for these things. You can get into these bidding wars. That was cool. Plus, the kids are incentivized to go to the event and look at it and see it on display. It's like an art gallery, and people buy it. I mean, it's cool all around. We didn't have to spend much money on it. The parents, the committee member's mom was willing to come in and do this and donate the resources and the time. It was a huge win-win. I mean, it was awesome. So if you're a school, if you're working with a school, man, that's a huge opportunity. Now, as the event got closer, I opened the event. Actually, I remember now, I opened it on Tuesday. So the event was Thursday night. I opened it on Tuesday with a big mass email. Now in ClickBid, you can schedule emails, which is great because I could schedule it, the week before, like, okay, I want to send this welcome email, and then I want to send a follow-up email. And again, don't use my internal opinion of how many times I should reach out to it. Find out from outside if I'm getting too much. When somebody donates an auction item, it's also a really good opportunity to put it on social, Facebook, send it home with the kids. Like, we had 5 new items this week come in for auction, and these are what they are, and this is their value. Be sure to bid on them. It's again another reminder. 2, it's another reason why you should attend. There's a lot of value in that, and it's a good opportunity for you to communicate with your donors. Showing that you're busy is also a very good thing, to the school. We're working hard to get these scholarship funds. We're working hard to promote the school. That's a big deal for parents. I mean, being a parent, I don't want to think that all the teachers in the school are like, and the administrators are like, we just take the tuition and maybe some grant money and, we just make it work. Like, that's not very motivating. But to see them hustle is really cool. Now, in ClickBid, we have a system where you can sell tickets, and I just, get guests and then assign tables before opening event. This is a big deal. Like, if I have 30 tables in an event, and they can have 10 people per table, I have a pretty hard limit of 300 attendees. So I'm going to sell sponsorships. I'm going to sell individual tickets. A sponsorship comes with 10 people. And so that if somebody buys a sponsorship, they bought a table. Or if I buy 4 tickets, I'm going to sit at a table, but I've consumed 4 of those seats. So we have to keep track of that. And it's all about getting to the event without having 25 people at one table. So table assignments are a big deal for a seated event. And our managed guest page, under event tickets, managed guests, is really good at table assignments, in my opinion. See, we have the purchaser. So if I sort by, so Greg Allison bought these tickets, and so I can put in table 12, and so now they're assigned at table 12. And so I can go through that I can go all the way through it. I got off that page just as a side note because I left it quick. Is for YouTube, I don't want to put personal information out there. But anyway, manage guests, I'm putting in those table assignments, and I can also check. So how many people are seated at table 12? I can filter all my guests by table. I can do a search for name. It really helps me know who's at table 12 or table 13, or I have too many people, or if I have somebody walk in off the street that showed up late and didn't register, crap, where am I going to put them? What table has 9 or less people at it? Because I can't put 11 people at a 10-person table. So that's where the manage guest page really comes in handy. Now, I will admit that one thing I wish I had done from last year is that ClickBid has 2 buckets. They have a guest bucket and they have a bidder bucket. Long story that goes back to why this is the way it is. It was all about limited resources and not overwhelming the network, because ClickBid is a platform that is extremely busy at key points of time, Friday nights and Saturday nights. So, if we keep the data down, then there's less querying and all that stuff. So we're like, well, you're going to have 300 people in your guest bucket. You may only have 150 people in your bidder bucket, because those are the people that are bidding. Not everybody who attends is going to place a bid. So what I did, which was a mistake in retrospect, was I took all the bidders from last year and I brought them into bidders in this year. What I should have done was left the bidder table blank. No bidders in, because a bidder doesn't need to be in ClickBid until the auction is open. That's general rule. You don't need a bidder in the system, a single bidder, until you're ready to start accepting bids. That's what they do. Although your guests are different. You want them in the system as soon as possible, because you want to know who hasn't filled out their name or contact information, what table are they going to sit at, so we know when our tables are full and sold out, and so on. So what ClickBid does is on Tuesday, when I'm ready to open the event, I should have been able to just select all my guests in my system, and I'll go back to the guest page. I guess I can blur it out. I don't know why I'm so bent. I did this once before, and Google was like, we can't have this video because it's got personal information. So you're going to see some blurring on here. What I can do is I can select all my attendees or my guests, and I can look through and say, okay, some people don't have an email or a phone number. Now, as a bidder in ClickBid, I need at least a bidder or a phone number, because that's how we communicate with you. You can't bid unless you use your phone. You can't use your phone unless you have a phone number on file, because we got to send you a text message to log in and bid. So it's kind of a necessary thing. If one of my guests at my event hasn't provided me any information, there's no point in making them a bidder. There just isn't. So I deselect, I go through and go to all, or 100 at a time, and then I select everybody, and then I start deselecting people that don't have a phone or an email. If they have an email, that's okay, because I can email them. But if they have a phone, I can text them, but I can't, if they don't have it, then I can't do anything. So I just deselect the ones that don't, and then I scroll all the way to the bottom, and I say make bidder. Then type the word make bidder, because this is one of the things I really love, is like, you've got to be like, we have organizations say, I don't know why everybody was a bidder. Well, we don't hear that a lot, because you actually have to type the word. You can't really accidentally do it. So then I press update, and it will take all of those guests that I've selected and turn them into bidders. If I have duplicated phones and emails, then the system kicks them back and says, listen, you can't have more than one bidder with the same phone number or the same email, because we're going to keep that limited. But that's the easiest way to do it. So that way, when I go to, like, let's say I have 203 guests, then I should not have more than 203 bidders. Now in this case I do, because again, like I said, I shouldn't have added my bidders beforehand. I should have made sure that they all followed that happy path of buy tickets, become a guest, become a bidder, get into the event. I should have done it that way, but I didn't. So I have 278 bidders. Not the best, but I wish I would have done that a little bit better. Now, the day of the event, we got loaded up, got after it. I mean, I was pretty pumped. It's funny. I actually wrote this in here because I wanted to tell this. So when I do events, I sweat like crazy, like a sinner in church, right? And I hate it because then I'm just kind of like hot and the rest of the night. This time, I didn't sweat hardly at all. It was a personal win. I'm really excited about that. Plus, we had to go up, we had to go up floors. So big deal. So anyway, we got everything set up, and everybody just knew what they had to do. That was really cool. We had several meetings before about load in. Like, okay, what's going to happen when we load in? We had big poster board printed of the types of things that we work with in our school. So dyslexia, what is dysgraphia? What is ADHD? Those kind of things. Kids' stories we put on there so the parents could read about it. Again, we're reminding our parents why this place exists. And anybody that the parents invited are also getting a chance to see it. It's all about awareness and engagement. Not only do we want to raise money at the event, we want people to be engaged when they leave. And so they stay engaged in the organization down the road. That's really, really important. So, but it made setup really easy because we could load in at 3 and the event started at 6:30. So we only had 3.5 hours to get in, get the band set up, get the catering, everything had to get set up, check in, my live stream, the auction items on display. So, but it worked out really well. I think we had 100, how many items did we have? 118. That's a really good number. If you're ever wondering, like what's the sweet spot for auction items? Auction items, between 1 and 150 is a really good number. It's manageable. It gives people variety, and that's really, really, it's not overwhelming. We've done events with 1,500 auction items, and that feels like a flea market. And we've done events with like 2 or 3. That's not really an auction, so it's probably something else. But with games and auction, it gives people variety. We found that was really successful. We sold out of the punch board options, and we sold out of the giving tree where it was just really another version of the punch board or punch cups, just higher value things. So we had less of them, but they were higher value, and the punch cups were lower value items like gift cards, and they cost less. But we sold out of both of them, which was great. This year I had a web camera that I set up. So what I like to do is, again, I like to show people that we're busy, we're doing stuff. And so I set up a web camera. And honestly, I have one here. I bought a bunch of these last year. This is a Razer Kiro Pro. I wouldn't recommend this one, but basically a web camera with a USB on the back and a laptop. Take a little portable stand like this, set it down, point it in the direction of what's happening, like people setting up the event. You got your band doing a sound check. You have people dressing tables. You have catering kind of placing plates and all that stuff, hanging, whatever. It's really cool to see behind the scenes, and you can send out a mass message to tell people, hey, you should check us out. Look at what we're doing for this event. We're setting it up. Now, one big caveat, I actually didn't get my protein. One thing, man, I've had these things resting so long, they're nice and like lukewarm. You really ought to do that. You've ever watched a video where they talk about like, let the meat rest before you grill it or cook it? Like, that's really important. It tastes better. Cheese is the same way. If you ever let cheese sit out and get warm before you eat it, I always eat it cold from the fridge, and it's like, not as good, but when it gets like room temp, it's money. So what you have to be careful of with these web camera things is, every conversation, you can hear it, especially for whatever reason, people are going to have their most personal conversations right in front of the stinking camera. So you do want to be careful if you're using the camera's microphone. Like if you're doing super low end and you just set up your camera, hook in a USB, and then you want to go to Event Central, live broadcast, and then, it's me, and then go to this web browser thing and press Open Broadcaster. When you do that, you'll be able to choose your camera, choose your audio, and then start broadcasting. It's like 1, 2, go. Now, whatever camera's plugged in is available for you to pick. Whatever audio source is plugged in is available to pick. So you do need to be careful that you're not broadcasting people's personal conversations. So you might maybe put up a sign next to it that says, you're on TV, or whatever. So people know, like, okay, if I'm going to talk to somebody about the budget numbers, I probably shouldn't do that right here because it's on camera. Or you can play some background music if you're really savvy and you want to like take I guess maybe a phone. If you had like music, like Spotify, you just plug it into your computer with a headphone jack, and then you can play music instead of playing a microphone. Because again, I'm going to send a mass text message to people and say, hey, check out what we're doing to get ready for you tonight. And again, it gets people to come to the website. They can place some bids. They can be involved. And they can watch, like, oh, that's kind of cool. Ooh, they're doing. I tuned in at the right time. We're doing a sound check. Like, that's fun. But you always want to have some sound, because what'll happen is if you just have video and no sound, anybody who watches the stream is going to think there's something wrong with their computer, and they're going to spend 10 minutes trying to fix something that isn't broken. So it just creates frustration. So always have some music or audio, so that way people can say, oh, I hear something, we're good. Then if I want to watch it later during the program, I don't have to fudge it with my my computer or my phone or whatever I'm using to watch the live stream from home. The best case scenario is you get hooked into the AV team. So, most events are going to have an AV person who's like taking the music from the band, all the microphones from the band, the ambient music or the microphone from the stage. They do all the hard work of combining all that into what's called a house mix. Most of the time, they can give you a copy of that with a cable. So on my computer, I have a headphone jack. I have a Mac. I have a headphone jack. I say, hey man, can you give me a 1/4 inch? Is that what I need? 1/8 of an inch headphone jack of the house mix. Now, to me, I don't know what that means. All I know is I just said, give me a house mix 1/8 inch jack, and they're like, yeah. To them, it makes perfect sense, and they give it. Like, here you go, plug it in, and then choose that as your source. They always do ambient music before the event, and then you're guaranteed not to like get somebody's personal conversation. So that's the best way to do it. But again, super simple. Everybody should be doing this, because here's the deal. We had like 20 people watching from home throughout the event. That's 20 people who couldn't come. Now, they couldn't come for a lot of reasons. One of my staff, it was Easter week, so they were at church. But they donated. They watched the live feed. They sent comments. This person doesn't even affiliate with my son's school, and she's engaged, and she made a very, very generous contribution. Maybe the person that's watching is a graduate who now works in New York City or Chicago or whatever and just couldn't make it. So I was able to take all the effort that we put into this planning and let people benefit from it who couldn't even be there. And it wasn't rocket surgery. I didn't have to move heaven and earth to make it happen. I just had one of these low-cost web cameras, and I was able to get a high enough bar with it, and I got audio, and it worked great. In my case, I just used the microphone from the web camera. So I got room noise, which isn't the best, but it's better than nothing. So it was great. Anyway, I had a thing, and I'll skip it. We also handed out paddles. One of the things that we do in ClickBid, and this makes check-in really, really easy. And this was a last-minute decision, so we didn't have a whole lot of time to prep for it. I went into the Manage Bidders page, and I was able to select all the bidders. So I go to Show All and select all. And then I went down here all the way to the bottom, and I set bidder number to 9,000. And then I hit update. In the system, before the event, unless you're doing paddles, the bidder number doesn't mean anything. It's useless. Throwback to when everybody did bidder numbers back in the yesteryears. But if you are doing paddles and you're doing a paddle raise, then you want to make sure that you assign somebody who walks in the door with a matching paddle. And so I've had events. I mean, I've done a lot of events, and one of them, well, a lot of them that we've done, they've pre-assigned all their bidders. And then they're like, okay, so we're going to do A through K with paddles 100 to 300. And then they do that. And so that way when people come in, they got to look and figure out where they got to get in the whole thing. And then they that's not ideal. Instead, if somebody walks up, I go to as a volunteer, and I'm going to actually show you. I'm going to train you on volunteer check-in. If you're my staff, you're like, duh. If you're watching this still, and you're not, then this is good training. So I'm going to type in Burnell. I didn't hear the whole thing, so I'm just going to type in what I heard. Search. Okay, Matt Burnell. So my wife, Laura, I'm going to hit edit. I'm going to grab a paddle from a pile. Oh, it's 541. So I type it in and then I hit complete. Now she's going to get this random text message, which I think is pretty funny, but I'll probably hear about it. So I grabbed the paddle, I typed in 541 and I handed it to her. I confirmed the cell phone she had on file, and then I said, I'm going to send you a text message with a link to bid. If you have any questions, please let me know. So when the link to bid goes out and we require credit cards, when she taps the link, she's going to have to put her card on file, and then she can start bidding, which is great. I don't have to swipe a card at check-in. I don't have to ask them to put a card on file. They just do it when they use their bid app. And if you're like me and like a million other people, my credit card's already saved on my phone. So I just say use card, and then it's done. It takes it already has it loaded in, it fills in the fields. I put in my billing zip and I'm done. Like, it's nothing. Even faster than saying, oh, let me get my card out, hand it to you, you swipe it, tell you, what's your zip? Oh, what? Zip, okay. And then I give you the card back. It's faster. And it's more secure. I always wondered why, like when we did card swipers, I always felt like that was a little less secure because 100 people will put their card through that card swiper. Even on a secure system, hackers can break into stuff. I mean, if you can break into like Wells Fargo and steal a bunch of data, or Target and steal a bunch of data, well, you know what? You can break into anything and steal a bunch of data. So I like the fact that everybody's using their own device that they know and trust, and that they only put their card on file. So it's not 100 people. So there's not going to be some big data breach at your event. So that's really important. And basically, I just showed you how to check somebody in, so that's kind of fun too. Now, just to wrap things up, I've been talking for a super long time. After the event, I wanted to get my committee some numbers. I mean, I felt like obviously that's my responsibility. I mean, because we use ClickBid, everything is instant. I got numbers on numbers. So if I go back to my home screen, I got, not that. I have this right here. Now you'll notice, we didn't blow the lid off our totals. I mean, this is a small event. To have a silent auction that did $10,700, that's not huge. I mean, we do events with 50, 60, 80, $100,000 silent. The live does another 100,000. I mean, the appeal does 250. All different ranges of organizations use ClickBid. But I want to get this data to my team. Now, obviously, I want more than 8 pieces of data. So one of the things that we found that we are working on in the system is better reporting. But what is the type of data today that I can get to my nonprofit? Because this is, again, tomorrow morning, they start the process of how much did we get in our checking? Are we going to get in our checking account? How many checks did people write? How much was that? How many people still have to check out? How many people have to, how many items didn't sell? Did somebody have a declined credit card? All those questions of reconciliation, post-event stuff, so that we can tie everything out. When we get a deposit from, again, Wells Fargo that says you have this much in your account, that number is going to match something in ClickBid. So how do we do that? So today, and we're improving this, I'm super pumped. In the very near future, we're going to have some new business intelligence. Oh, it's going to be sweet. So then first thing I want to go to is, I want to go to reports, where I should go, because reports is where everything's going to be at. And I want to hit the auction overview. This, I can just screenshot and send, or I can send them. Ideally, I would say, hey, you do it. Go to your reports tab and auction overview, because they have access to this. And it's going to show you how many bids were placed, how many guests did we have, how many items did we have, how much percentage of donation goal, I don't think we set it. I set a goal, but I don't anyway. So 70% of that we made. Donations. It's a really good summary of. We raised $29,560, and excluding quantity items, our fair market value was $18,800. So we did pretty well. Even if you take off the $10,400 on donations, we're still at fair market value. That's awesome. I always say, to be safe, plan to make 80% of your fair market value in the silent auction. Over 23 years, that's been pretty consistent. It's usually 30% more than a paper auction and 150% easier to do than a paper auction. So that's my first stop. Stop one, look at the auction overview. I can get some really good data. Then I want to go to what I like to look at is Event Central event payments. It's not a report. It's a functional page that helps me see who's paid, who hasn't paid, and I'll look at unpaid, and I see here that I have 4 people. Now you'll notice, of all the people that checked out, only 4 people didn't give us credit cards. So that's pretty good. Again, like I said, we didn't swipe cards. So we're in this new world of contactless payments. You don't need to swipe cards. It's a big burden, and it's not really necessary. It takes a lot of time. People will add their card for you. So only 4 people have to be, chased down. This one looks like we had a card on file. I think that one declined because we tried processing it. So these are the people that I need to deal with, and they need to, they need to make their payments. Then I go to paid checkouts, and I get all of these. So I have 72 people made payments, and I can see, if I look at payment type, how did they pay? One person paid with cash, one person paid with other, everybody else was credit card. And I did that by sorting in this individual column. You can sort individual columns in our data tables, so that's super helpful. And then I can also look at, how did they check out? I used Butler for one of them, and then batch process for a lot of them. We have a batch process option, and then people paid from their mobile phone. If I want to find out, I could type in the word mobile, and of the 72, about half, a little less than half, paid from their phone. That's because I got impatient. At the end of the night, I just ran cards through batch. And all you do is you just come up to the top here where it says unpaid. You choose all, select them, and then choose credit card and send it to your email address when it's done. So, that's super handy if you want to batch process anybody with. And I did that, and I processed 40. So that's the next thing I want to go to. So after that, I'm back in reports, and I'm going to look at event sales. Now, when I look, this is a report we're getting ready to update literally in the next few weeks. I'm pumped about this too, because it's going to have better groupings, but I can look at everything: the auction, online donations, ticket page gala. This is our ticket page. It's going to give me everything. I'm going to know what they did. Was it a donation? Was it, let's see. Yeah, it's probably just going to keep, top bid. So they won because they were the top bidder. Again, the new layout's going to kind of expand all this so it's easier to read, but they paid with credit card. This is how, this one, 130% of fair market value, 40, 50, 50, 158, 147, of how much they went above fair market value. So this is some really good data. What you can do with this is you can export it as a CSV, and you can use it to either import into your CRM. You can do different formulas on it to determine things. It also shows you, did they pay? So they paid $260, and then they paid an $18.69 credit card fee. So that means that person was willing to cover the credit card fees of this transaction. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is the credit card fee was added, and this may have included multiple items. So we did put the admin fee in here as a total of their entire checkout. What we're doing here is showing you every individual item and how much they paid for it. So the market value was $200. The number of bids was 20. This was really competitive, which is great. If I want to sort that, I can sort, and I can see, let's do number of bids. I can get a list of the top 10 items. That's a lot of bids. Usually I like to see 10 to 15 bids on an item. And so we got some that were really crazy. Oh, blind date with a book. Interesting. This must have been a teacher experience. So anyway, you can then put this out. You can, sorry, I mean, you ever do that? Like you're talking and all of a sudden you're like, your mind just like reboots, like it does a power or hard reset, and you're like, wow, my thought just emptied out of my head. So I can see a lot of data in this event sales is what I'm getting at. And it tells me how they paid, when they paid, and so on. And who paid, who won it. And again, I can download all that data. If you're looking for refunds, did we do any refunds? Oh, I gave myself a few refunds. I was testing some things, so I refunded some stuff. But this will show you what got deducted from the grand total. So let's say the net total was, or the gross total was, $100. We refunded $5, so then the net is $95. I can look at, again, now, I mentioned the type of data, I wrote it down here. Where did I put it? First, there's a few things that we want to know at the end of the event. First, what sold and how much did I make minus any fees? You're going to find that in the event sales. It's going to show you every single purchase that was made, and was somebody willing to pay the credit card fees? If they were, then they paid that for you. If not, then you'll end up paying the 3.5% of that credit card transaction. If it was check, they passed it all got passed through. The next thing we want is what am I still owed? So I want to go to, we have I think it's called checkout. And so items not paid for, I have 6 items right here, 6 items that still need to be paid for. So that's what's pending, accounts receivable. I should be going after this. Then, what do I want? I'm looking at my notes. Third, what didn't sell, and does it make sense to set up a second chance auction? So I can go to items, unbid. Why am I, Event Central, sorry, gosh. Event Central, unbid items, and it'll show me these, there's 23. Now this is misleading because a lot of these we actually put in as punch cups and giving tree, so we have to deduct those. I think we only had like 2 or 3 items that didn't sell. And so, the desert bloom paintings I think didn't sell. Anyway, so this will tell you what you have, and you can determine, okay, maybe I should set up a second chance auction. Anyway, I just taking a quick look just to make sure that I didn't have a report in here for unbid items. That's something we're adding. Again, like I said, we're putting out a new feature. I'm pumped. That's going to have all this stuff. I keep saying I'm pumped, like that's going to make you pumped. You will when you see it, but probably not yet. And then lastly, what are some cool data points that the system can show me about top bidders, best items, most bids, etc.? So like I said, in event sales, I can take a look at, top bids. I can resort. Look at that. These, I got to get these next time. A 20-person camping tent, DeWalt Mechanics tool set. Ooh, the Leonard at Logan House. I should ask them for professional training sessions. Blind date with a book. Those are really good items that I should be considering for next year because they did really well. Excuse me. It can also tell you, again, these market values, these are actually all over the board, 200, 250. So it necessarily wasn't an event where we had to find a bunch of lower cost items. But if I do download this, I can get some averages over like 20 or 30 items. So that can tell me some really cool stuff. So what I said, what we're working on, again, is you'll notice I jumped around to about 4 different reports. What we're working on is an auction overview, and down here, a post-event report. And that post-event report will include a full tabbed document that you can look at that has overview data, a big list of overview data, all of your bids, all of your checkouts, all of your processing, how much was netted to the organization, everything tied out so that when you're looking at your banking statements, everything will tie out to that. And then these extra reports, non-silent item, bids over time, bidders by dollar amount. These are really cool. Like I said, that fourth thing that we want, some good data points that the system can give me insights into. I'm busy. I don't need, I'm not an accountant, so I don't need like, an MBA in ClickBid. I just need some stuff that will help inform me for next year. All right, so, all in all, it was a really cool experience, a smooth event. I got to see from all different aspects and how ClickBid fits into that. I'm obviously happy that ClickBid fit in extremely well, and there were a lot of places where I felt like ClickBid saved us a lot of time. Creating auction items, getting people checked into the event, getting bids, checkout was like simple. Mass messaging, we had great communication tools. This helped so much. We only had 2 hours of an event. So opening the auction early was critical. Gave people a chance to bid early so they didn't have to do all the bidding in a 2-hour short period of time. But using mass messaging tools like email and text helped really get people ready to go with information. We empowered people with information, really helpful. Butler is a game changer for nonprofits at events because you can get somebody who is not a tech savvy person to check someone in and check someone out quickly. It's so easy. And they can do it for hundreds of people. And then you, as more of the tech savvy person, can be kind of that gatekeeper of the bigger questions. I want to change tables. I don't like my bidder number. I didn't do this. I need to change my credit card. Those escalations can go to you, but your volunteers who are using Butler can just get people checked in, boom, fast. People are very visual. We did do a lot of displays. I thought that was awesome. In our case, if I scroll here and go to, it takes me a second. So I go to my donation item. If I scroll over here and I type in donation, this is how I quickly find things and manage items. I can find them by type, title, so on. If I click on tuition assistance and edit it, I can come down here to our projected display. So I can click on this. We used a book metaphor. So we were able to stack books as we got closer to a goal. And then we put like chalk messages as we get closer to our goal and so on. So this was really cool. We projected this on TVs all over the nightclub, and it really, really helped. You could see the total going up. It does motivate people to give more. It is nice. And then payments and checkouts. One thing, obviously since we're not adding this up on a calculator by using paper sheets, that's a massive win for technology. It's like as soon as the second that the auction closes, people can check out and get their stuff. And that's important. People, their lasting impression is the last thing they did at your event. So you don't want the last thing they do is stand in line waiting for an auction item or figuring out why their total doesn't add up. So because it's electronic, it's completely totaled instantly. They can check out from their mobile device. I mean, it's great. The other thing too is if you have an organization that's a small, close-knit group of people that you kind of know everybody. Like I remember checking people in on Thursday. The person sitting next to me, like she knew every single person that walked in. She had their guest record pulled up before they even got to the table. And me, I'm like, oh, can I get your last name? And I felt kind of dumb. So that's why volunteers are so good, because they know people and it's a relationship. Whereas me, I'm like, hi, I'm Matt. What's your last name? Like I should know you. Or I'm a staff member, and that's even goofier. So if you have a close-knit group, let people pick up their own auction items. I'm going to check out from my phone. Cool, I got my receipt. I need to get items 10, 100, and 52. Grab. I'm out the door. If you trust schools are good at this. I mean, our kids go to the school. We know where they live. And as the nonprofit, I can look at event payment or Event Central event payments. I can look out and see, hey man, what did Matt? Let's do Burnell. So Laura, my wife, she bought 2 things. Well, now I know if those two things are missing, I can assume she has them. Or if it's still sticking around, I can say, oh, item 33 is still here. So I'm going to type in, also I notice I have my mobile filter. I can say, who got 33? Oh, Laura did. So she had to pick it up. And so now I need to make sure she gets it. And I can see that she paid. So this is when she paid. She used credit card. She paid the fees, obviously, because it's a random number there. And yeah, that was, so now I've got a lot of data. So I would recommend one of the, in my experience, when we have an event where you have to go run and grab items for people, that really slows down checkout. You need to plan for it. So what you need to do is you need to have two tables. One table is to get people paid and make sure they paid. The other table is for everybody to hang out waiting for their items to show up. So, if they're all in one spot, you're going to have a huge line out the door because nobody can make sure they get checked out before the last person got their items picked up. Hey, perfect. I see you've checked out. You got 3 items. I'm going to give these on a sticky note. I'm going to give these to little Brad here. Brad's going to go grab the items. If you stand over here, he's going to come get them for you and he'll give them to you at this table. Perfect. Thanks. Okay, now I'm going to go to the next person. Oh, you just made a donation? Oh, you're all set. Looks like you paid. Perfect. Have a great night. Thank you for your charity. Drive safe. Next person. Oh, you have 2 items? Oh, one of them, we're going to mail it to you, and the other one was a donation, so you're all set. And now I can't do that if I'm still waiting for this person and Brad to go run and grab all the items. So you want to split that up. So if you do have runners, make sure you split it up. If you don't have runners, they can just go get their items, and that is a huge time saver. So, yeah, that's about it. I mean, I'm trying to think of anything else. Certainly after this, once you look at the unbid items, you can decide if you want to do a next, a second chance auction. So all I would do is I would go to my organization tab, and then I would add a new event, I want to use this keyword that I already have, or I can type in a new one. And then it'll let me, on the next page, it'll let me clone from another event, which I want to do, clone another event, and then go back into ClickBid. And I don't want bids. I just want, let's just do it. So let's just do LMA 25 and then 2 second or something like that. The keyword isn't critical. Let's do LMA 25 second chance. I'm going to open it. Let's see, what's today? The 24th. So I'm going to open it for a week. No, today's not. I guess it is. Oh, this is May. All right, got it. So 24th. I'm going to let it go until next Friday. So that's how long my second chance auction is. Open auction early, yeah. Select the time zone, Detroit, next. Now, I need to set it to 2. All right, there we go. All right, so next, give permission to a user. Yeah, it's going to be me. Great. So that pre-fills it. Awesome. Now, do I want to start from existing data? Yes, I want to grab the LMA 25 data, but I don't. I want merchant. Auction settings is fine. Bidders is fine. Items and item donors. Landing page settings. I don't need the ticket page. Maybe custom text or emails if I want. But then when I press next, what it's going to do is it's going to give me all those items. It's not going to move the bids or the checkouts or any of that stuff. It's just going to move the items. And then I'll just delete all the items I don't want and just the items I do. So I have 2 separate events. One of them has all of its data intact. The other one is just a second chance, and I'm good to go. All right. Well, there you go. I'm going to finish my meat sticks. Pretty excited about that. And thank you for putting up with this. If you made it all the way through, gold star. I mean, like probably 2 of them. And yeah, see you on down the line with another really long broadcast.